Guys, ready? Okay. All right. So we are here tonight to begin our conversations and decision-making at some point with our Board of Education as it relates to the request and from our board president, Cheryl Logan. She asked me to work with staff and to bring back information to the board in 3 areas regarding non-discrimination. She asked us to look at policies, guidelines, and professional development. And as we thought about those, we thought about how we usually build our district policies and the things that we do within the district, not even policies, but procedures or anything. We look at our infrastructure to ensure that the infrastructure is set to be able to accept it. This system is pretty large, so it's hard to kind of get things moving throughout the system. So we take this approach in most everything that we do. So we look at our infrastructure, which we consider to be our guidelines, is the way we're looking at it, and we've framed it. And then we think about our culture within our school district, the culture to accept the program or whatever it is that we're doing. We look to see if the culture is right, what things we need to do through our professional development before we're able to implement any of the things that we do within our school district. And then we implement our work, which again would be our policies and things that we put forth as we move forward. So we're going to continue to kind of keep that same process in place. And so for the information was asked of us to share the progress of our updates, and they will be provided during our superintendent's reports at our board meetings. And so my reports are typically at the end. So we want to make sure everyone is aware of where those things will sit, and so as we move forward. So as we begin to move into this particular portion, I wanted to make sure that you understand there has been a huge team of folks at our offices that have been working on different components of this particular work. And so tonight we are going to be again starting with our infrastructure work, and the first particular portion that we thought was critical is really around our work with IDs. I'm trying to think of my word. I'm going to try to use official records. So we have our people here that are in our records department. We have Keith Reynolds here and Terrell Davis who will be presenting. So the first step that we thought we would take, which would be our official records as it relates to our guidelines and the infrastructure that needs to be built to be able to support our students. Because again, our work is to support our students, make sure that they feel that they belong in a school and that that they have the support that they need to be successful. So the first step in our guidelines is around our work with official records. So you guys can begin.
Thank you. We thought it would be advantageous for us tonight to look at the verbiage in terms of our district systems as well as some additional terminology. In terms of our current system, we use the terms or legal name, which is the name that identifies a person for legal, administrative, or other official purposes. We also use the term preferred or chosen name, and that is the name that someone prefers to be identified by, that they have not legally changed their name. So that's someone who may be named William who wants to be called Bill. We would put that in the preferred name or chosen name place. But an additional term for this discussion would be dead name. And in some of the conversations, some of the people who've addressed us at the opening sessions have talked about being referred to by their dead name. So we wanted to make sure we gave you a good definition of that terminology. That's the birth name of someone who has changed their name. This term is used by someone in the LGBTQ community who is transgender and has elected to go by their preferred or chosen name instead of their given or legal name. And so for the sake of the conversation, we want to make sure we all have the same definitions. In terms of what do we use our names on? Currently we use them on our student identification cards, those are our IDs, our progress reports and grade cards, our transcripts, and our IEPs. And we list it as internal documents as well as legal documents. Currently, legal names are used on all documents listed above. The only caveat there is student identification cards, which currently they're the only documents that can be printed with preferred names. Currently, we cannot change legal names unless we are provided with a court order showing the name change. And we want you to really pay attention to that we cannot change a name, change the legal name unless we are provided with a court order showing that name change.
I'm going to, is this on? Okay. I'm going to speak to our current process that we use with our student system. So as we stated, to change a legal name, students must have a court order showing the name change. Without the legal name change order, schools can put the student's preferred name in Synergy in our student information system under preferred first name, and we have preferred last name fields. Currently, students can request that their preferred name to be listed in Synergy. But if students are under the age of 18 and their parents object to listing their preferred name, we do follow the parent's directive. Synergy official reports are only pulled by legal name. Preferred names in Synergy are not displayed on any of our official reports. That includes class roster, attendance list, progress reports, grade cards, IEPs, things of that nature.
I'm just going to interject here. As we were listening, we began to see some of the things that we're talking about. These are current. I know some of you kind of look at, these are the current practices that we're having. We have not talked about what we could do or anything of those nature. We're talking about these are the current practices that we have, because I see some of us are looking a little confused, like, what? These are current practices. So that was what was asked of us, to bring the current practices, and then we're going to do a work in progress so that you kind of understand exactly where we're going to move to. So is that clarifying to everybody what's happening here? Okay.
Dr. Thompson, would you explain for the public what is Synergy?
Synergy is our system, student information system, where we store all of our information for our students' information.
Okay, I will continue. The student identification cards are school-based, so they are not required to display the student's legal name. The schools can actually override the student's legal name and have the identification card printed with the preferred name. We have outside vendors such as LifeTouch, and we provide them with a list of the legal names. Some of the elementary schools may make a card, and those are based on those legal names there. So currently, our school transcripts, our progress reports, our grade cards, and IEPs still all display the student's legal name. And then again, to change that legal name, they must have some sort of court document to do that. Even a birth certificate that was changed would be sufficient in that case.
So now we're ready to look at our work in progress. What we would like to do is look to create standardized protocol and procedures for staff to follow in regards to student identification cards, to use preferred names to be printed on with or without a legal name change, and then with progress reports and grade cards to investigate official reports to find out if Synergy can list preferred names on such reports. These reports would also include class rosters and attendance lists. And again, as we were listening during some of the comment sessions, one of the things that we heard from some of our students was the offense that they were having to subs who were looking at class lists and reading a dead name instead of the preferred name. And so we would investigate looking at making that change in Synergy. Finally, transcripts and IEPs would still display the legal names as they are legal documents. And that's to help, especially with our seniors, as they're doing college applications. We need to make sure that the transcripts matches the names that they're sending out to schools. And so to keep there from being any confusion there.
Okay, are there questions? Julie?
Just so I understand, just a clarification. I'm looking at the sheet that's called student identification cards. And it appears to me, without knowing exactly how this works, that maybe you have some school picture vendors that create some ID cards at some of the schools. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. So you could potentially have a situation where at school A, the student identification card is created at the school, and the student has informed the school of what their preferred name is, so that one will be created accurately according to their preferred name. But you might have another school, B over here, that the school doesn't create the ID card. LifeTouch creates the ID card, and they're using the legal name list. So even though the student has told the school office their preferred name, their student ID might come out with their legal name or their dead name because a vendor is creating those ID tags in lieu of the school.
That is the importance of getting our synergy system to be able to recognize and pull those reports, and when they pull them, that those names, preferred names, are what is shown. Right now, what happens is when LifeTouch, I'm sure what happens is when LifeTouch gets those names, they're getting them from a report that is pulled from Synergy that only pulls legal names. And so we don't want those students to have different IDs because the school can create theirs when the other ones look blue and the other ones look red. I mean, we're not doing that. What we would do is we would ensure that LifeTouch gets those preferred names through the pulling of the report the accurate way to be able to get those preferred names so that they all are uniformed and the preferred name is on the identification badge.
And I know you're just getting started in all this investigation, but does it seem like that change is going to be able to be made in Synergy?
I'm looking
Okay.
at Rob up there. He's been in contact working with them. If you want to,
The answer is yes. We did request
yes,
that.
we
through
did. I just wanted to
Synergy.
make sure.
Yeah, the
I didn't want to
answer
say
is yes.
too much because I know we've requested it. It is a patch.
Yes.
And I'm not the techno woman.
Yes.
But I know that there is a patch that we can request to be able to get that to happen. Currently, we do not have that patch and the ability to do that, but we would request it.
Okay, awesome.
They
That's
will
great.
have that in the release, and we will test it and everything before we put it out, but yes.
Great.
And this is, Synergy covers lots of schools, so this is across everybody.
Sure.
Okay, Ernestine?
Thank you.
Will this patch be done in-house, or will we have to wait for an outside company to do this patch?
Well, EduPoint, which is Synergy, would provide it, the release and the patch.
Soon?
And, sure. No. By the beginning of next school year?
Like tomorrow? No.
No. I'm honestly uncertain at their date that they're going to do it. We have had discussions with them, and they are working on that, and they will provide it to us. And then in-house, we will do our testing.
But it's not going to be right away. It's going to be time consumed.
There will be some time involved, yes.
Okay.
Okay, Ben?
Did Rob want to talk first?
We just want him here so he can tell us. Because this is his wagon.
I just wanted to publicly thank you, Dr. Thompson, and your team, because I know there's a lot of background work that goes into a presentation like this. Tremendous amount of background work, and I know there's a lot of work to be done. But I also acknowledge that there are a lot of districts, smaller districts in Kansas, that look to us for best practices. And that's a key thing. It's a real strength that we have in doing the rigorous work like this and like standards reference grading and a lot of, like you said, a lot of the other large-scale things that we do because we are the shining beacon of excellence in South Central Kansas, I think. And, well, I know that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Beginning of every meeting.
Exactly, yeah. So, but yeah, I wanted to just publicly thank you and your team, because it's gonna take a village. So thank you.
Julie?
And then also, as far as this synergy change that's upcoming here, another one of the advantages that's going to happen from that is that then when class rosters are published and given to substitute teachers, then rather than the legal name on that roster will be the preferred name.
That's correct.
So several of the dilemmas that we heard that currently exist in our practices seem like this technology change is going to solve some of those. And, obviously we haven't solved everything yet, but a couple of very significant, important changes will come into place just simply because of this change in technology.
Right.
Yeah,
Some
that's
of those
awesome.
questions are like, where does it come into the process? Is it in the online enrollment process? Are we introducing that into, and is the system going to allow us to toggle that back and forth based upon the needs of the district? So, yeah.
But then I also notice, and I assume this will still be the case, that it will be required for the student to request in the office that preferred name, because if they don't make that request, then nobody knows to put that data into the computer to have it registered.
That would be correct, which leads us to this privacy piece that we will also begin to put into the guidelines, because if the students are going to come and share this information, what does that mean to that student once they've shared that information? Where does the information go? And all those kinds of things. That's also part of the guidelines that we will be working towards as well.
But then also legally, if a child is under 18, if a parent objects to that change, we're not, as a school district, allowed to go against a parent on behalf of a child that's underage.
That is correct at this point, yes.
Okay. I just want to make sure that all of us are on the same page, and I think we really are. But we've discovered through all this work that we really have a system problem. We have a sub come into a building, we give them a roster, and it says Mary instead of Martha for the student's name, or whatever it is. And so they call the student Mary, the student doesn't like it, gets upset. So with this change in synergy, we will be able to give them the roster that has the preferred name that the student wants to be called, whether
Correct.
that's a first name change or a last name change. Because sometimes kids will have a legal last name, but they're living in a family that goes by something different, and they want the last name to be, the preferred last name to be different. So if we're able to get this patch and get it put on, which it sounds like it's likely that we could do that, that would take care of that problem?
Right.
Okay, and the legal documents, which are truly legal documents, the IEPs and the transcripts, we have to stay with the legal name unless we get a legal document that changes that, correct?
Correct.
Okay, because I want to make sure we're all together, because I think some of the comments that we've heard from the public and from students is that they don't get called by the name they want to be called by. And I can see now why that's happening. Before, we thought they put it in their PIF that they wanted to be called something, and we thought it automatically went to everybody, but we found out that's not true.
That's correct.
Okay, and so I know you're working on it, but can we say as a goal, we do it as fast as we can do it, but we definitely will work to have it done by the beginning of next school year? Is that a fair?
I believe that's fair, yes.
Okay, but if we can do it sooner, we will be able to get that patch in. You've got to test it, I understand that, but as soon as we can, we will have that available.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Ben?
Since we're talking patches and everything, could Rob explain how a patch is implemented
He
in our
can.
district
Yes, he
systems?
That's probably a
And
good
more-
idea.
because of,
So
I
we
mean, I know, but,
We constantly run a development environment as well as our production environment. At the time that a patch is released, It'll go through several cycles of testing after it's deployed on a development environment. And then at some juncture, after that testing is complete, then we'll schedule for that update to happen on the production environment, hopefully that it doesn't interrupt the classroom at all. So, sometimes the timing of something is pretty important, so, especially in this case.
Does that answer your question, Ben?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay. Mike?
Julie asked a question earlier, and I want to kind of piggyback on that. She asked about a student comes into the office and wants their name changed. That raises another question, because if they're under 18, we can't do it unless the parent agrees. Do we run into legal problems at that point? Because we now have to call the parent and say, your child came in the office and requested a change of name. This is some of the complex web that I think we're weaving with this, and it creates, every question creates another two to me. And this is just one of them, because, if we out the child and they don't want to be outed, then we're in the wrong. If we do it and we don't do it and the parent's mad, we're wrong. I'm a little confused on and we may not have an answer for that yet. I realize we're early in this situation, but that's just a thought that just, as Julie was saying that, it came to my mind. And I don't need an answer. I'm sure there's not one at this point, and I appreciate that. My other part of the question is with the patch, if we get the patch now, I am assuming it's going to cost us a lot of money to do that.
So that particular patch is a general patch. So that patch will go out to all Synergy systems throughout the United States. It's not particular to just us. So that patch within itself won't cost anything, but obviously there's time of development, testing, those types of things that are offset costs that the district takes on at that time.
And I'm assuming that there's testing time before we see it with Synergy. They're not just going to come up with some patch and go, aha.
That's what you hope, yeah, sure.
Thank you.
Ernestine?
Well, I didn't have the problem or the issue as a lot of us are LGBT students, but my first name, well, it's not quite as bad as Matruda, but you can know that I chose Ernestine, my second name, to be called by. And if I would choose Ernestine, which is a pretty weird name, the first name was very weird. And when I was in school and they would call the roll, more often than not, I would not answer. I would just let it go by, because I did not want to admit in front of my fellow students that that was me. And then after class, I'd go up and quietly tell the teacher, that's me, I'm here, but please don't say that name out loud again. And so I can really understand, because I spent years at the beginning of school having to do that because my first name was so obnoxious. As I said, it's obnoxious if I picked Ernestine as the better of the two.
Now you have us all curious. We're going to go research.
Now you're going to all die to know what my first name is. Now I'm not going to tell. I'm now legally Ernestine Williams Crable.
That took care of the problem.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I want to echo what Ben said, and all of us believe this has been yeoman's work, and it continues to be as you bring these reports back to us, because I think we all absolutely 100% are committed to making sure our kids are safe at school. And whatever we need to do to make that happen is what we want to do. So,
And that was one of the points I wanted to make, is that that's the thing, that we don't want kids to be embarrassed or awkward. There were times that I sat there with tears in my eyes, and I didn't have a lot of the other issues. I just am really excited that we're looking to take care of our kids and make them feel good about being there.
that's right. Dr. Thompson? Yes, please. Yeah, she said, do I want to know what's next? I always want to know what's next. So, please.
So we're going to move along nicely with this, actually. I know people will say, was that all she's going to do? But we do have some other information. We're continuing to work on our guidelines for sure. But then as we continue to work, we'll be bringing all these things back. However, what we're going to talk about the next time that we meet is around our culture piece, which is our professional development work. And so we will talk about how we're going to work on the culture to be ready for what it is that we would want them to do, including our kids and making sure that they feel belong in our school. So the professional development piece will come next. And then we'll come back some more with some other information. We're going to then show you all the policies that we've had all across the country. We have been, I mean, literally from one end of this country to the other, just scouring through lots of information. And we're going to share all of that with the board so that they have an opportunity to review those materials before we move to our next pieces. So it's kind of like a little bit of time going, but we got a lot of work for you all to do, and we got a lot of work still to do, but we are moving quite nicely on this work.
Great. And we appreciate that greatly. Thank you. And thank you very much, team. I don't think there are any more questions tonight. Thank you. Next item, Mike.